Hello everyone, I'm Sina and welcome to my channel Sina Draws, and this is going to be the second episode of the Technical Pens Encyclopedia series, during which I'm going to talk about some relatively modern technical pens. In the first episode we talked about some retro models such as rolling pens, the fascinating peasant pens which are actually quite relevant even these days, and the good old stencil pens or lettering pens. And I virtually did my best to cover every aspect of these once formidable inking tools. And if you take a look at some older videos in my channel, there's a must-watch video about the Graphus, which is actually a one-of-a-kind pen with quite exceptional matchless capabilities. One can choose from the variety of 60 different nibs and 3 different feeds to produce virtually any kind of lines. So that's definitely a must-have pen for any enthusiast of inking. Now it's time to talk about the true iconic pen, the Rapidograph, and the whole series of pens which were inspired by its radical, revolutionary design. In this second episode, I'm going to talk about the introduction of this new series of pens, which were later called technical pens, and how it inspired other companies to produce similar pens to compete with this new Rapidograph. I'll talk about the evolution of this pen in Rotring and how other brands got inspired by these changes. And I'll show to you how the interchangeability of the parts will help you personally modify your pens. And in the third episode, we will talk about every different models that were produced by Rotring during last 7 years, since the first Rapidograph were produced by Rotring, and how Rotring step by step improved not only the pens but also the pen cases and made them more capable and practical. And I will talk about all the ups and downs and pros and cons of these different models. And at the end of the third episode, I'll let you know my personal idea about these different models and which one I personally believe is the best. And in the fourth and fifth episode, I'll talk about other brands and the capabilities and features of their technical pens. So as always, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. First, let's have a quick review of what you're about to watch in this video. First, we will talk about the beginning of the technical pens and how Rotring finally managed to combine Indian ink and stencil pens and make the iconic Rapidograph, and how step by step this new design developed and got mature. Then we will talk about the name of this new pen and how eventually everyone agreed on the term technical pen. Then we will discuss how actually everyone copied virtually every aspect of this new pen and made their own, and how Rotring improved the nib design and invented different accessories for this new peculiar pen. Then we will talk about how the Rotring design became the standard for any other brand to make their pens around it. Then we will go through different early models of Rotring, the mighty Variant and Varioscript. Then I will elaborate about how the interchangeability of the parts can provide you to choose from many different parts and modify and personalize your pen. We are going to briefly talk about the technical pens of Eastern Bloc. Then we will talk about different nibs of Rotring and their functionality and practicalities, and how the introduction of the new tool called lettering set totally evolved the nib shapes, and how the sum of all these changes made this new pen an ideal choice for lettering, drawing, and drafting. Virtually all enthusiasts of writing love fountain pens due to their simplicity and convenience of use. A fountain pen is the logical combination of a dip pen and an inkwell, which both have been around for thousands of years and still are. But it wasn't until recently that they finally joined each other on a practical platform. The same can be said about technical pens and their beloved China or India ink. Maybe you're just thinking, let's do the same trick. But it's not going to work as simple as that. The India ink is thick and pigmented and won't pass through the fountain pen feed. So a whole new concept of fountain pen feed was needed. Rotring had introduced tint and Cooley in 1928, which was a needlepoint fountain pen affectionately referred to as Tico around the world. The design had combined the ink flow regulator with a tubular nib and a regulator wire. But it took about 25 years until 1953 that eventually Helmut Rippe developed the Rotring Rapidograph over the Tico concept, which is the true protagonist of our story. The fundamental characteristics of the Tico concept, which were the ink regulator, the tubular nib, and the wire regulator, were modified so that they could receive the thick India or China ink. The design is pretty simple. The wire is connected to a weight that blocks the ink path. Each time the nib touches the paper, retracts the wire so that the weight letting the ink to flow. The initial design had its flaws, but it was good enough to kickstart a whole generation of pens that, at their infancy, were called with quite strange Indian American style names. Maybe you think the term rapidograph was quite common from the very beginning, but it wasn't. Even the Rotring itself was wondering what to call this new generation of pen. Indian ink drawing instrument, rapidograph piston filling drawing instrument, a fountain pen for marking and drawing with India ink, and many other strange terms like these. They're all trying to emphasize that this new pen could receive Indian ink. Little by little, these long, strange terms gave way to more practical names such as drawing pen. Leroy, which was a sub-brand of Kufel and Esser, and had one of the widest range of nib sizes, with up to 14 to be precise, preferred the rather strange term of the reservoir pen. Polygraph, which was one of the most respected brands of that era, invented the term the ink fountain pen. Faber-Castell, which again is one of the most known brands and has one of the best high-quality products in this field, came up with the term drawing pen with cartridge or refillable reservoir, until finally someone did the job and invented the term technical pen, which seemed good enough because eventually from somewhere on, virtually everyone, even the Rotring itself, started using it. And the term technical pen became the standard name for this new generation of pens, and started here and there to pop up on packages of this new pen. But the term rapidograph, from the other hand, has maintained its position, and still here and there you hear people using this term instead of technical pen. And even some other brands, such as Kohinoor, are using it on their products. Even the Rotring itself seems to have started reusing it on some of its newer versions of technical pens. Call it whatever you prefer, this new pen were produced in a variety of sizes and soon became quite popular and swept the market. And virtually every known brand of that era copied the design. Here I have provided some good examples of pens that had apparently been inspired by Rapidograph. And if you take a look, you're going to witness that maybe by some minor exceptions, they have copied virtually every aspect of that pen. Staedtler, Polygraph, Aerograph are the examples I have provided here, but the list goes on. And later in this video, and in the next chapters of this series, I'm going to explain more about this fact. Rotring later developed this new concept and introduced an array of new products. Models like Variant, Varioscript, Micronorm, the new Variant, the 2000 series, Isograph, the new Rapidograph, Rapidoliner, and many more that I'm going to talk about virtually all of them and many more others in this episode and the episode after it. So don't forget to stay tuned, like this video, and share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. And above all, let me know about your opinions in the comment section below. As said before, the initial design was quite impressive, and virtually was copied by any major brand of that era. But obviously, this doesn't mean that it was perfect and still had quite a long way toward perfection. For instance, take this nib into consideration. It's completely round, which virtually means no grip to screw or unscrew it. And this is going to be quite troublesome, especially if the ink has dried around the nib. And when the nib was unscrewed, it could fall freely because there was no safety feature to keep it in place. And this could totally ruin your pen because the needle inside was quite fragile, especially in the finer sizes. The packaging was a simple cardboard box, inside which there was a simple pamphlet and a piece of blotter, which was provided to clean the excess ink around the nib after refilling the pen. Quite a luxurious option, isn't it? But even this initial design was so impressive that virtually every aspect of it were exactly copied by other brands, even the flaws. For instance, take one of these early models of Leroy into consideration. The nib is completely circular, and if you unscrew it, there is no safety feature to prevent the piston from falling freely. So, as you see, this design was so impressive that no one could even think about criticizing it, let alone changing it. So it was Rotring itself who decided to fix these minor problems. They added two flat surfaces around the nib to provide better grip, and a specific color was dedicated to every nib size, making it easier to distinguish one from the other. This color code was a simple paint around the nib at the beginning, but later developed into a colored plastic ring around the nib. As said before, two flat surfaces around the nib were added, providing a better grip. And they even stepped further and designed a wrench like this that the nib could easily be put in while unscrewing, preventing your hand from getting inky. And even the pamphlet was redesigned, providing more information about the pen itself and its maintenance. A proprietary inkwell was designed, and even a pen cleaner solvent was provided for ease of maintenance. And the fun fact was that every step taken by Rotring was exactly followed by others. Like this pen cleaner solvent for Leroy, or even this inkwell for Polygraph. Rotring designed these tubular boxes for the nib spare parts and added this little spring at the back of the nib, preventing the piston from falling freely, just as I am showing you here or is shown in the pamphlet. And as you might have already guessed correctly, even these tubular boxes were exactly copied by other brands, like Polygraph, Normograph, Stedler Mars, or even Leroy, which were still resisting to use the term technical pen instead of reservoir pen. And guess what? This step by step pursuit of Rotring design meant that it became the standard technical pen all over the free world. So you could easily take one pen part and replace it by others. And this way, for instance, modify your pens personally or upgrade it with a better spare part. Just look how better this Mars 700 piston filler technical pen by Stedler seems with a Leroy nib. And just believe me, these old metal early models of Leroy are really fascinating, buttery soft, well-made nibs. And even this option is more practical when the spare parts are rare. And this could easily help you revive your older pens, because some models have long been discontinued with no genuine spare parts available. Just like this hope from Japan that virtually every models of it is really collectible, including compass sets or lettering sets. Virtually every different rapidograph made by Rotring during all these years share the same body, and they are quite identical body-wise, and only some minor changes have been made here and there. For instance, adding this briefing hole to the cap that was aiming to prevent getting vacuumed while screwing or unscrewing it. But its application was eventually causing the nib to dry out, so it was considered an unnecessary change and later was dropped. As said before, the Rotring design was quite fascinating, but actually it had its own problems. It was expensive, complicated, and not quite user friendly maintenance wise. And if you were planning to have different sizes of it all together, the only option was to acquire a pen case like this, buy different sizes singly, and put them together all inside it. So Rotring decided to address all these issues in its next generation of technical pens, the mighty Variant and Varioscript. The Varioscript were designed for lettering and especially to be used with different types of templates and stencils. The Variant, on the other hand, although seemed quite identical, were designed to be used like a regular pen for writing or drawing or anything else. There was 8 different pen sizes inside each case, but only one barrel, which meant you could use only one at a time. And if you were annoyed by constant screwing and unscrewing the barrel, you could buy these spare barrels and make yourself 8 full-size pens. The pamphlet was also redesigned covering the changes in this new series. I will talk about the application of the other contents of these new sets, but for now let's focus on the pen itself. And there's a third model called Micronorm. And if you notice that M mark stands for the compatibility with the DIN standard. And as you could completely expect, the other brands just followed and introduced their equivalent sets. But obviously, they were still following all the aspects of the new Rotring design by some minor exception. For instance, in the number of pens or barrels, or in the set arrangement. Rotring just kept introducing different sets to satisfy virtually every style. Some of them were packed with new features, others only a rehash of older designs. But all of these new pens and sets from Rotring and all other brands had one upside in common. They had interchangeable parts. You could easily exchange different parts from different brands without any major issue to happen. Because if you take a close look, some of them even share the smallest and slightest details with the Rotring original design. And this fact obviously would give you a huge flexibility in maintaining and keeping your pens running, because actually it's impossible to run out of spare parts. And even one can cannibalize one pen to revive others. For me, personally, this feature has been quite inspiring. And I did plenty of trial and errors to find the best match and make myself a perfect pen, something that would really satisfy me. And later in this video, I'm going to show you that perfect pen. And it's really worth mentioning that there are plenty of unknown brands that, despite their potentials and high quality, have stayed relatively under the shadow of Rotring. One of these brands is Polygraph, that really worth paying attention. And in the fourth and fifth episode of this series, I will definitely cover it. One of the genius features of the Rotring 1000 series design was definitely its barrel. The cap could be posted firmly on the finial, or it could be unscrewed easily, giving way for another pen to be screwed instead. So, if you were supposed to carry your pens around, you could easily fit 2 pens in the space of one. So, what do you think? Quite practical feature, isn't it? The idea of having 2 pens available at once is quite brilliant. You remember that I told you earlier that virtually everyone followed every aspect of Rotring design. Well, there is always some minor exceptions, in this case, Faber-Castell. And as you can vividly witness, the pen doesn't exactly fit into the Rotring's barrel, and if you take a close look at the nib, it's friction fit, unlike Rotring that is screw fit. And to remove it, there's a tool like this available that could be fit on the nib to pull it out. I'm not going to judge over this, that which one is better or worse, but the fact that Faber-Castell, that is one of my favorite brands, decided to totally divide itself really breaks my heart. Actually, Faber-Castell wasn't alone in this approach. There was some other brands like Kufel and Esser that initially decided to part their way, but later understood the drawbacks of this approach and decided to share parts with others. For instance, take a close look at this one, which is one of the early models of Kufel and Esser. Apparently, the threads are quite big, and the rotring barrel doesn't fit on it. But in their future models, they totally changed their design so that their pen could receive rotring spare parts. And they went so far as to that even the Kufel and Esser cap could be easily posted on the rotring barrel. And this was a huge step forward for them, if you ask me, because their nib quality was really high, and on the other hand, Rotring had really high quality impressive barrels, and combining them together could really lead into the introduction of perfect technical pen. And this is actually exactly what I did. And this is the very exact pen that I already told you about. The perfect technical pen, in my opinion. The Kufel and Esser nibs are made out of brass, really solid, well-designed, robust, buttery soft nibs that, if preserved well, will last you a lifetime. And the rotring barrels are really beautiful, slick, well-made, and well-designed. I really love the way the cap posts firmly on the finial. And if you just like me prefer to hold the pen slightly from the back, believe me, you're gonna love it too. And here, as you see, I have turned one of my old Rotring cases into a pen case to carry around my new improvised technical pens, so that I could have all of them beside each other at once. And now it's time to turn to the other side of the wall, the Berlin Wall, actually. And as you might have already expected correctly, there is nothing similar between them and the Western products to share. The idea actually is the same tubular nib and regulator, but the dimensions are totally different. And their approach toward designing the pen differs fundamentally. And as they are not popular at all, even in their countries of origin, I'm not going to elaborate about them any further. And for instance, this Centropen from Czechoslovakia seems to have come from a totally different planet. And although it's really robust and well made, it fits into a whole different category. And the same can be said about this Scribent Multi from GDR, German Democratic Republic, or Eastern Germany as we know it today. The pen itself seems really well made with tight tolerances. It seems to have been inspired by Rotring design, but adopted totally different dimensions. And as you can vividly witness, the nib is apparently smaller than the Rotring style nibs. The most peculiar part of this design is actually the barrel, which is friction fit instead of screw fit. It's a piston filler, quite surprisingly, with a rather smooth mechanism that really works well. And the cap, quite surprisingly, doesn't post at all. Quite frustrating for me, actually, because I really love this pen and its overall design. Especially the pen case, which is really simple, yet quite practical as well. Just notice how delicately they have avoided complexity, and yet they have came up with a sensible design and a rather well-made, durable, affordable product. Obviously, in the fourth and fifth episode of this series, I'll provide even more details about these two fascinating pens, especially the Centro pen, which has totally changed its approach in designing technical pens in its newer products. But what was actually the difference between variant and Varioscript models? What I have here is three different models of Rotring retro nibs. The old variant, the Varioscript, and the new variant. To better grasp the difference between these three models, I will switch to the broadest sizes of these pens, which is actually 1.2 mm in the Variant series and the size 10 in Varioscript series. And if you take a close look at these two nibs, you're going to witness that the Variant has some sort of tapered shape, while Varioscript is completely flat. And actually, to be able to use the Varioscript, especially the broader sizes, you were going to need a converter, something like this, that normally would come with the pen in their cases. You were needed to unscrew the pen from the barrel and screw the pen on one side of the converter and the barrel on the other side. And now you would have a normal lettering or stencil pen, similar to which I showed you earlier on the first episode. And now you have a better idea of the difference between these two models. The Variant could be used like a normal pen, while Varioscript, especially in the broader sizes, needed a converter. And the second major difference between these two pens is the number engraved on the cap. While the number on the Variant was the size of the line it could normally produce, the number on the Varioscript was the size of the template that was compatible with that special size of the nib. And as you see, the same number is engraved on the template as well. And it means this template is suitable for that nib. And the same thing can be said about virtually any other template from any other brand. And as these tools were engineering tools, they were all following strict standards. So no matter the origin of the pen or the template, as far as it would follow the DIN standard, the same could be said about them. So you really need to pay attention to that M sign if you're planning to buy any new pen or template, unless you don't care about it being compatible with the DIN standard. But I personally really pay attention to this fact and really suggest acquiring standard tools. So this was pretty much everything about the Variant and the Varioscript. But what about this youngest member of the family, the new Variant? Actually, the motivation behind this new design was the introduction of a new tool called lettering set. Before that, pretty much everyone were using those templates, and after that, virtually everyone wanted to use this innovative tool. And that's how the Rotring decided to change its nib shapes so that it could be fit inside the scriber of the lettering set. There was two kinds of scribers available, the normal one and the slint and height control scriber. And there's a comprehensive video about this fascinating tool in my channel. I put the link up. I really suggest watching it. And especially, I really suggest acquiring the early models built by Leroy. They really have high quality. And actually, it was after that the label technical were given to any writing tool that could be fit inside that scriber. And as you can vividly witness, although Rotring changed almost every aspect of its technical pens in the later models, that step structure of the nib was left almost intact during all these evolutions. So this was pretty much everything about the Rotring early models of the technical pens. And the 2000 series, the isograph and the new rapidograph will be discussed in the third episode of the Technical Pen Encyclopedia series. But a spoiler warning ahead, if you ask me, these two models are the best amongst them all. And between these two, definitely the Rotring variant with the long barrel stands out. Well, that's actually pretty much everything about the early models of Rotring technical pens, the Rapidograph, Variant, and Varioscript. And in the next episode, which is going to be the third episode of this series, I'm going to cover newer versions of Rotring technical pens. And it would be quite astonishing to know that Rotring produced virtually more models of technical pens than all other brands altogether. So the next episode will be dedicated totally to these new products of Rotring technical pens. Every different aspects of them will be discussed, and we will go through every different cases developed by Rotring for them to be carried around. And believe me, this video is going to be a comprehensive package about all these models and fascinating tools together. And in the fourth and fifth chapter of this series, we will talk about other major brands and the variety of their products of technical pens. There are really fascinating models available, some relatively unknown. Models like Pentel Ceranomatic, Standard Graph, Stano Professional, Reform, Rifograph, Centrograph, Aerograph, and many others. So, as always, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Many thanks for staying with me up until this moment, and till the next video, goodbye.